Hello, my name is Damon Friedman, co-founder and president of SOF Missions. As a 20-year veteran within special operations, I've gone through many challenges due to my military service and time in combat. We felt called to start SOF Missions to serve our fellow brothers and sisters in arms, focusing on suicide prevention and resiliency. Our mission at SOF Missions is to empower warriors to find purpose and be resilient. Since 2011, when we started the organization, almost 3 million men and women have deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan. Unfortunately, the scars of war take a toll on their psychological, physical, social, and spiritual health. Many veterans feel a sense of hopelessness and a loss of purpose when they return to civilian life. They feel isolated and alone, unable to reconnect. And in the greatest of tragedies, over 20 veterans lose all hope and take their own lives. Our goal at SOF Missions is to provide veterans the tools and resources so that they don't become a statistic. We offer a unique approach to combating veteran suicide through a whole health intradisciplinary model. The Be Resilient program is a 4-pillar methodology that addresses the areas of psychological, physical, social, and spiritual wellness. We provide care through 3 delivery methods: medical clinics, retreats, and educational training. Since we started back in 2011, we have been able to reach veterans in all 50 states and have served over 3,000 veterans through the Be Resilient program. Being resilient is a multifaceted and complex issue. We know that to find a lasting solution, we have to address the whole warrior. Many challenges cannot be solved by providing the treatments and modalities of just one component, but by tackling them all. Now, we've expanded our services to include law enforcement and first responders. Together, we can make a lasting impact in the lives of warriors across the nation. To learn more, visit our website at sofmissions.org.
For your post assignment, all units proceed to your post assignment.
All right. Welcome back.
MisFitNation, the MisFitNation show.
We are a show founded by a veteran and hosted by 2 veterans and a military spouse. Our mission is to get people to tell their stories to the world. If you're an author, share your tips with the Misfit Nation. If you're a musician or an actor, our audience needs to know how they too can get into the business. Coaches, we love our coaches. Come on and share your tips with the Misfit Nation to help them become better versions of themselves. If you are a corporate leader or an entrepreneur, come on and show how you did it and how hard you have fought for success. If you are a veteran, first responder, or Gold Star family, we would love to have you come on and share your story with the Misfit Nation. We always have time for you. If you're feeling down, alone, or starting to see the darkness, stop. Think about those who are around you. You are not alone. You will be missed. If you feel like your problems will be a burden to those in your inner circle or feel embarrassed, dial 988. If you are a veteran, take option 1. We need you to keep pushing forward. Don't make a permanent solution to a temporary problem. If you are a new listener, welcome to the Misfit Nation show. Be sure to subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast app. Also on our YouTube channel at @the_Misfit Nation. Subscribe and click the bell to keep you up to date on our latest episodes and all of our news. You can also find us on Heroes Media Group and About Face Radio. Now, let's get to the show!
All right. Welcome back to the Misfit Nation show. It's the Thursday after dinner edition. Thanks for taking your time to hang out with us tonight. We know you have other places you could be, but you choose to hang out with us right here, and we thank you for that. Before we get down to business, we have some memorial stuff to say. Again, we're going to say her name again. U.S. Navy sailor Angelina Resendez. She was missing. Her body was found Monday night or Sunday evening. A fellow sailor is in custody for pre-trial confinement by NCIS. Let's keep her family, her friends, her fellow sailors in your thoughts and prayers as they go through a very tough time, especially her family at this time. And also here on Fort Campbell, in the aviation community, let's keep them in your thoughts and prayers as we had an incident last night. We lost one soldier. One soldier is in the hospital. Let's keep them in the forefront of your head right now. And let's try to keep everything peaceful around the world as we go into this weekend. Tonight, we have a great guest that comes from a family of service. His dad did 38 years in the LA Fire Department. Most people will say LA, that's a long time to be there. And I said the same thing. That's a long time to be a fireman there. But he says he made it out unscathed and doing great things. And he put out a great family. So our guest tonight is the lead physical therapist for the Human Performance Optimization Team for the Air National Guard, an Ironman finisher. He's the Chief Challenge Officer at TriumFit Challenge. It's his company, and overall insatiable, curious dude. So without further ado, let's welcome Tyler Smith to the Misfit Nation. Welcome, Ty.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for
Great
being
to
a
have
guest
you,
here.
brother. We were talking. I should have just hit record while we're in the green room because we're having a great conversation in there.
We
And
did.
it's just flowing perfectly. And I'd love for you to share some of the stuff. The 38 years, like you said, your dad did one job for 38 years. You're 33 years old. And,
Yep.
that's
Blows my mind.
5 years more than you. So I mean, that's a long time. You can't fathom that happening to you. But
No.
tell us a little more about your family background, and now everyone's basically in the healthcare profession.
Yes, 100%. Yep. So you got that nailed the statement right there with coming from a family of service. So grew up. My father was a firefighter, paramedic, one of the first in LA City. So he got on the job in '73 and retired in 2011. So 38 years there. My mother was a pediatric oncology nurse, mostly dealing with kids with leukemia at UCLA. And then my older brother, is a sports medicine physician at Kaiser in Northern California as well. Older half sister's an athletic trainer. So I kind of obviously saw this, healthcare side of what the working world was like. And I was very inspired by that. So I think at a young age, I saw the stability that comes with that and the service that comes through healthcare. And I knew that was going to be part of my story. And I went into undergrad at University of Denver, studying pre-physical therapy, knowing I had an interest in biology and human anatomy and physiology. And so due to injuries and stuff from sports growing up playing ice hockey of all things in California, having some injuries and rehab, I wanted to go down that path as well. And so I graduated my eventual doctorate in physical therapy in 2020 from San Diego State University. And then I've just been working in PT ever since and been where I'm currently in Camp Murray, Washington, like you said, working with the Air National Guard as the lead physical therapist for the HPO team. So Human Performance Optimization, which is a fairly new pilot program on the Guard side. They've had things like H2F, so Holistic Health to Fitness, in different installations and branches of the military. But the HPO team is a fairly new one. So it's good to be a part of a new step, I guess, in that healthcare team for the military and for the Air National Guard. And I've been liking the job right now. So it's been great.
Outstanding. And as part of that team, since you're the physical side of that team, is there a mental and like a spiritual side team as well?
Yep. There's a DPH wing, and they do all the mental health for the working men as well, in terms of like mindfulness training and breath coaching and yoga and like kind of the mind, body, spiritual aspect of well. I'm mainly on the rehabilitation side, so a lot of chronic knees, chronic back injuries, all these types of things. And then there's two other strength coaches that work more with the performance aspect of it as well. So kind of that continuum of dealing with the chronic issues and then leading back to where they want to get ultimately with their sport or, return to duty and all that kind of stuff as well.
Awesome. And I know the Army started that within, I think it was down to the battalion level at the Army on the active side. And I'm not sure if they kept it now or they've just kind of integrated it fully so much now that it's actually a green suitor doing it now instead of having a contract in there doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I know it changed the mindset of the soldier. Instead of just being, I'm going to go out and do this. Now they know they're a high performing athlete and they have to get that body as a temple and keep it that way to move forward.
Yeah, we're seeing a big evolution in the training, even in terms of the testing, right? So what they're doing now is the officer fitness test, the OFT. And so they're doing, it's like a more all-encompassing. It's not just a push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups. It's like it's agility test, and it's a deadlift, and it's a swim, and all these different types of things. So even on the Army side, you're seeing there's like a push, a pull, a carry. There's more like these functional tests that are happening now rather than how many sit-ups can you do in 2 minutes, and it's a very kind of rigid test that kind of leads to those overuse and chronic injuries that have plagued the military at such a high rate in the past.
And most of those, like you said, the push-up, sit-up, 2-mile run, that was based off 1950s studies, 1950s physical studies, and the 1950s human.
Right.
1950s human, it worked for them. But
Sure.
as time goes on, we evolve and we keep evolving. And it's awesome to have guys like you and your team make the airmen into actual, get that mind going that I'm an athlete. I have to stay in my top peak at all time. What do I do to keep this tempo going? And that's where your team comes in. That's outstanding.
Yeah, if you look at the long-term, savings in terms of healthcare costs and all that, because like you said, if you're shifting the mindset to now, we want to keep these guys. We don't want to just, wash them out through med boarding and all that kind of stuff and kick them out. So we want to keep the guys that we recruit and, spend a lot of money to put the skills into and everything. So I think we're having a better conversation now about how to retain and keep guys healthier for longer so they can have careers like my father had, 38 years. Obviously, he was a firefighter, but you want to see guys retire on their own terms wherever they are, in the military, fire, police, any kind of tactical profession, and tactical athlete is the term that we use for them now. So
and see him get to the finish line would be much better than like you have a buddy that you said lasted 10 years and is 100%. And we don't want to see at 10 years. That's a 28-year-old guy that's 100% disabled.
Right.
That's not good. And no matter how you look at that, that's not good. Even if it's not something where he's limping all the time, it hurts to have that anecdote on your head saying I'm 100% disabled at 28 years old.
Exactly. It's also a mind state, 100%. Yeah. So it's been tough.
And also, I mean, we kind of gloss over that you're an Ironman finisher. That's a tough task in its own right. And to do that while also you're probably still studying or in your job at the time when you did this.
Yeah,
it's not easy to do both.
Yeah, I was working at 2 different jobs. I was doing some work it was orthopedics, but it was almost like a home health hybrid. So I was driving to patients' homes and seeing them. They weren't homebound, so they were technically like an outpatient general population. But I was doing that part-time, and I was working part-time at a sports medicine clinic in Santa Monica as well. So I don't think I would have done, where I am now, where I'm, 40-hour weeks and full-time, because I needed that flexibility with those part-time jobs to basically allow me to trade, because the Ironman training is at least a part-time job, right, as well. So when you're talking in the recovery and the fueling and the actual training. So that was the time to do it, because this was right after COVID, and a lot of the world still wasn't kind of fully up to speed. So this is in late 2020 when I got the idea, and then I was training all 2021, and I did the race in Cozumel, Mexico in November of 2021. So I was still able to be living with my parents, actually, which this is really the heroes of the story. Always my parents, living with my parents, working these 2 part-time jobs and chasing this childhood dream that I had when I was 19 to do an Ironman. I told myself when I saw the Kona World Championships of the Ironman when I was 19 years old at home. And I had just come off shoulder surgery. Like I said, been injured playing ice hockey in between high school and college. And I was like, that seems like one of the most incredible things a human can do. As I'm sitting here recovering in a sling from a surgery, I'm like, that's wild. And I was 19. I was like, I want to do that at some point before I die. And so it happened to be when I was 29, 10 years later, when I had a classmate at San Diego State who was also into fitness and running. And he texted me right around the turn of the new year, 2021. Hey, when are we doing that Ironman? You talked about it at some point, right? And I was like, well, there's my resolution. This is the year I'm going to do it. So it all kind of fell into place in 2021 when it actually was able to happen. So very thankful that I was able to pull it off in terms of getting the training done and not succumbing to COVID or some crazy travel restriction before, because there's a lot of question marks, obviously, that had to go right to make it happen. So very thankful that I got to, check that off the list. That led to certain things and, a mind state that maybe wasn't the healthiest, that we can kind of elaborate on a little bit later in the podcast. But I am still thankful for that Ironman experience. And you see the red carpet and they say your name out loud. And it is a special feeling. I still remember even showing up to the race. You're there a couple of days before, and there's 800 to 1,800 athletes all converging into this one place. And you look around you and all the starting line, you think everybody here has put in who knows, God knows how much work they had to shift, and the training they had to do, and the sacrifices they had to make to be here trying to attempt a full distance Ironman. And you have this level of respect that I'm sure you can relate to in the military with guys that have gone through all the training that you've done in basics and all like that. So that level of respect, I think, was really apparent to me when I got there, and just to have the full experience was awesome. So very grateful.
Definitely. And you said something earlier, to have that time to heal and to make sure you stay injury free during it. That's something a lot of athletes or a lot of people who sign up for these races don't understand when they go into it. They think, oh, I see, like you watched Kona. Kona looks amazing when you're watching it on TV because you're not in it. You're not in the fight. You're not running. You're not swimming. You're not biking. You're not doing all this stuff. But then when you're trying to do all that and train and then also have a day job.
Yeah. Right.
How did you find the happy medium to keep yourself healthy and pain free while doing the whole thing?
Well, that's a great question. Fortunately, like I said, I worked as a physical therapist as my day job. So I kind of I know a little bit about overuse injuries and proper running technique and form. And I get so much schooling in that when I was in grad school. But so very fortunate to have access to those things, to have access to a TENS unit and laser therapy and all these things at my job. So it's like, oh, my Achilles is starting to flare up. Why don't I just hit it with a Theragun and then do some laser after, So I was fortunate to work in a setting where rehabilitation and recovery is the main focus. But it is tricky because, I'm the kind of guy that if I have a dedicated training plan, I want to hit every single day and I don't want to miss whatever it is, even if I'm having, maybe a little bit of a flare up of something. So I got into a tricky situation, maybe 6 or so weeks, kind of like in the peak week of training before the race, where I kind of flared up an Achilles issue and had to kind of back off and do some more elliptical work than running over ground. So it even happens to people in the rehab world, but that's more a factor of my stubbornness than anything else. So I'm the kind of guy that will try to train through most things. But like I said, there was the minor things that here and there that every athlete's going to experience. But as long as you're really taking in, your overall training load, stress, and that kind of stuff, and doing all the other major pillars, taking care of your sleep and nutrition, then there should be a higher likelihood chance that you'll end up on the starting line pain-free and ready to go.
Oh, definitely. And I mean, I never did an Ironman. I did a sprint. Yeah, did a sprint up in Maryland, Maryland, and I did one in Maryland and one in Asbury Park, New Jersey.
Okay.
I was still active duty when I did it, and I was still coming back from getting wounded in Afghanistan.
Right.
So I was just trying to push myself. Challenge anything that popped up after I got wounded. I'd say challenge accepted. I'm going to do this.
Wow, that's a great mindset to have. Challenge accepted. I like that.
I didn't really go through the right rehab for my knee after I got wounded.
Yeah.
I just pushed myself to, I'm going to run this marathon. That's my goal, to a marathon again.
Yep.
And I did that. And I mean, I pay for it now.
Sure.
Then I was just 100% adrenaline, and I'm going to go do this because you know why? That guy can do it. I can do it.
Right.
And I'm a soldier. I can do this. I'm the best. I can do this. I am the best and do this. And and you just go through it. I didn't train right for either try.
Okay.
Marathons, I trained right for 2 of my 7, and those 2 are the 2 I got hurt in. So the ones I didn't train for at all, I had no problems. I trained
interesting.
The ones I actually wound up with injuries. So it's a wild ride I had.
Yeah, that is interesting. Are you ever going to contemplate doing another triathlon?
It's in my head. I got to wait till my knee. My knee now is going through. I'm doing rehab on my knee now.
Okay.
Trying to make sure it's actually strong enough and in the right form. And my mind's for it, but for it too.
I like that. Yeah, the mind and body right. They have to cooperate. That's for sure.
Especially as I get older, it starts talking to me a little more now. Than I used to ignore it pretty well. Now I can't. So.
Exactly. It does get harder. Yeah. Those little things, those become big things if we don't address it early. But it's good. It's good that, like you said, you're taking some more time for it now. And hopefully it's able to at least be functional with running even smaller distances and keeping you fit enough to not have to worry about it all the time. But yeah, definitely taking care of those early makes a big difference.
And if I knew then what I know now, I probably would be healthier now. Learn life lessons as you go. And you luckily had the background of your schooling to get you through kind of the hurdles as you were getting ready for your Ironman. And that's a big plus for you. Not everyone doing it does that. Have you coached anyone else to do an Ironman or given them advice along the way?
Yeah, informally, I would say nothing Yeah, no athletes on base right now that I'm aware of are big into triathlons. I think some have expressed interest, but it's mostly smaller distances. They want to PR a 5K time, or it's a lot of lifting based stuff. So hitting a certain squat or bench PR is what we mostly see guys chasing. Not as much the triathlon route, but I did have, my buddy through grad school went on to do his now third Ironman. He wants to actually make it to Kona.
Oh,
So
nice.
that's his ultimate dream. And the fairy tale ending with him is being, qualifying for Kona, the world championships in the Ironman. So he's still getting after it. That guy's the most disciplined. He's not in the military, but for all intents and purposes, he, displays that mindset with his training because he's up 4:30 every morning doing his workout before he gets to work full time as a physical therapist as well. So just informally through friends that I know are interested in maybe, potentially doing it one day, but not any formal coaching at the moment.
All right. And in your answer, you mentioned the lifting, people trying to get high benches or high squats.
Mm-hmm.
You hit the 1,000-pound club,
Yep.
and I'm sure you didn't stop there.
Yeah.
Did you just level off there, or did you go, I'm going up?
I kind of checked that box as well. I didn't pursue it too much after I'd been doing like training for a handstand. My life has always been, pursuing these fitness milestones, like I'll kind of mention, and it's always been chasing the next physical bucket list feed and what could I pursue, and like what you said about the challenge mindset and trying to. One of my favorite, quotes and favorite presidents is Theodore Roosevelt and his man in the arena speech. And it's not the critic who counts, right? It's about the person in the arena. And so I've always tried to pattern my life around that, of not just thinking, oh, that would be what if, or that's great for those people, but like, what if I had actually tried to do that, right? And so I had, lifted all through my 20s, never powerlifting or like anything in competition wise, but just lifting for, we'll say, aesthetics and vanity and just for health's sake. And the 1,000-pound club has always, been a thing that I was like, I've never sat down and done it on a single day where I, have that as an end goal. And I just had a garage gym buddy I was lifting with, Ross, and we kind of had the idea, let's just attempt it one day. And so we probably, had been training for a good 3-4 months leading up to that point of, just the normal lifting stuff. But it was cool to actually check the box and to do that. But I wouldn't say I kept pursuing that, because there is a fine line in terms of, is the juice worth the squeeze, right? So, the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule, right? So what's the 20% of effort in this field I could give to get 80% of the results? And the inverse is also true. When you're in that first, 80%, to get that last 20%, you're going to have to give, 80% or more to get that last, squeeze that last little juice out of the orange. So I think with a lot of my things with jiu-jitsu or, rock climbing or lifting and all these kind of things, it's always about what's the maximum I can do with almost the minimal effective dose, the MED, what's the 80-20 principle with this skill. So I think having a broader range has always been my ADHD brain, that I've gravitated towards, rather than being a specialist in this absolute thing and your entire existence is predicated on it. I like just kind of dabbling in multiple fitness disciplines. And I think it's in a lot of ways benefited me as a physical therapist, because I can better relate to my patients when they say, oh, I'm a rock climber. Oh, I'm a swimmer. Oh, I'm an endurance athlete. And I say, I've done rock climbing. I've done swimming. I've done it. I've done a little bit of a lot of sports. So it gives me the language to communicate to them in something that they understand, and then have trust in what I'm able to tell them more, because I have a little bit of a peek behind the curtain of what it takes to become a higher level athlete in that discipline. Not to say that I'm that higher level athlete, but I might be able to guide them towards the appropriate thing based on what their trajectory is. So I've always kind of played around with a lot of different things. I think it's always good to have a core of maybe some type of cardio and some type of strength training, just for every human. We should all be doing those. But how that looks, weekly, monthly, year after year, I think it's good to play around with those so you avoid those, again, overuse injuries. You keep it interesting, you keep it exciting, and you keep progressing in some sense, because that's what motivates me to keep going, is that progression and just seeing some, if I could do it in a community aspect where I have other people behind me, that's even better. That's the ultimate form of progression.
Heck yeah, get that community behind you, and then
Mhm.
trying to emulate you and do the same things you're doing, or even past what you've done. That's the ultimate goal.
Mhm.
And
Lead
then,
by example.
what were your numbers in the 1,000?
Yeah, the back squat was 350, the deadlift was 450, and the bench was 275. So, um, never liked back squatting. I had, like I said, 2 shoulder surgeries, so even getting into an external rotated position with the bar behind your back is just not comfortable. So I do 99% of my squatting as front squats since I've been 18. And so I just, yeah, so I've never had a great squat. I could maybe, if I really cared, it would be cool to have a 405 just to say I put 4 plates on there, I guess, but I don't think that's, really going to happen. And then the deadlift 450, I felt that was hard, but I'm glad I got that up. And then, yeah, the bench again, not the greatest with the shoulder. So, but I'm glad I was able to do it. It was like a 1075, so 1,075 pounds or something. Someone could check the math on that, but enough to do it. So I was happy for that at the time. That was in 2022, about three years ago.
That's outstanding. Still, 1075 is better than most people do. And
Mhm.
you didn't quit. You went through even with the issues with the back squat. You still got into it, so that's good. On your Podmesh profile, your tagline, "I want to be a weaver of people who train for a higher purpose, beyond muscles, but for meaning, beyond VO2, but for virtue." Explain that to the Misfit Nation.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up. So, along with the fitness in undergrad in 2022, I got really into poetry, spoken word poetry, because I went to a couple slam poetry events in Denver where there's a competition style poetry, and you have 3 minutes, 3 pieces, and you're performing for an audience, and they're voting, who's doing the best. So I've always, a lot of times, as my creative outlet, words have come to me, or I like to think of words as a puzzle when I'm thinking through getting ideas on a piece of paper. And for better or worse, that's what my creative outlet has been. So when I was writing that, again, it came through as a poetic way of how I now want to see myself. I've kind of progressed through the fitness space, through the aesthetics, through vanity, through performance, through chasing times, and now I'm kind of in a blend of multiple things. But now it's more about chasing purpose, chasing legacy, and not just chasing a six pack for however short lived that is. And it's not to say that those are the worst things. I think those are things that motivate people at different times in their stage of fitness. And that's great. Anything that gets you moving is ultimately productive. But I did come to the realization that if I just did what I was doing at the time, which was I want to be in 1,000-pound club, I want to do a marathon, I want to do an Ironman, eventually there would come a day where I would die and no one would care what my mile time was, and no one would be at my funeral because it's only interesting to me, So I guess there's some, secondhand inspiration that people can take. That's great. But I think there is something more important at a certain sense of being fit for a reason, for a purpose, a stated purpose. And I'm strong to be valuable to my fellow man. And if there was an emergency, could I, hold somebody up and save them from a flood? Could I do a pull up to get myself out of danger? Could I, all these different types of scenarios run in our mind. And obviously with the military background, you're training for everything. And you're always kind of thinking about these, second order consequences of what if scenarios. So in my fitness world, I kind of noticed that I wanted it to be bigger than just myself and wanted it to become a legacy mission, which is what TriumFit Challenge has become, of combining fitness, philanthropy, history. The tagline of the company is give back, never give up. So it all started with, these 7 charity challenges that I did in 2024 as a way to stay curious about somebody had to die to give us this day of rest. I work for the military. I'm not in the military. I'm a civilian, but I get the federal holidays off. And so I was just coming off of the burnout of chasing a sub 5-minute mile and 315-pound front squat training camp type of thing in late 2023. And so I was kind of reframing, like, how can I get back into fitness? What's going to pique my curiosity? What is going to get me back in the gym training? Because after that training block, I was essentially broken. I didn't want to get on the treadmill. I didn't want to run a mile. I didn't want to do anything. And so the thing that got me back curious about working out again was looking at all the federal holidays and seeing if there was something that I could do to give back with my pursuit of fitness. And it started with Martin Luther King, obviously, and it went all the way through Veterans Day. Each major holiday, there was a historical financial donation and some kind of physical task associated with it. So I can go through a couple that I created. The two that are not unique to me, but I want to, eventually be on the same level as, would be the Murph Challenge, which you're aware of, and every Memorial Day, CrossFit gyms doing the workout to honor Michael P. Murphy, who passed away in Afghanistan in 2005, a Navy SEAL. And it was a 1 mile run, 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 squats, and then a 1 mile run. So that's done usually around Memorial Day. And the 911 Tower Challenge is also something that already exists in the world that I also do to commemorate fallen firefighters from 911. So that's 110 flights of stairs that you walk up and down in a timed event with a vest. So those are the two that already exist, but the 5 that TriumFit and that I created myself is the Martin Luther King Selma to Montgomery Challenge. So that's a 54-mile walk run in 54 hours to honor a 54-mile march that he did in 1965 for the Voting Rights Act for African Americans. So that's the MLK tribute. The Cesar Chavez tribute is a 2.8 mile farmer's carry with half of your body weight in dumbbells or kettlebells, because he was a farm workers' rights advocate in the 1960s as well. And he marched 280 miles from Delano, California to Sacramento, California, advocating for farm workers' rights, for a union so they could have bathrooms in the fields, and a slight increase in their pay from $1.25 to $1.40 per hour. So they were working hard in the field for almost nothing. So that was the Cesar Chavez tribute that I do. And then there's a Juneteenth tribute, which is actually coming up next. And that's going to be a 9 to 19 mile walk. And at least a mile of that has to be barefoot in honor of the average runaway who would walk 10 to 20 miles daily on the Underground Railroad towards their freedom. And Harriet Tubman herself made 19 trips to the South in her lifetime and freed over 300 people through the Underground Railroad. So that 19 is a significant number. Obviously, Juneteenth is June 19th. And then the 9 miles is the lower end of that range, again, because of the average distance that they would walk daily. So that's the next challenge coming up. After that is the 4th of July Feast and Fast, where there's an eating challenge and a 24 to 48 hour fast. And that's just to kind of understand the duality of America with abundance and absence that a lot of people still struggle with. And then we donate to Action Against Hunger as the cause for that. And then there is the 911 Tower Challenge. And then Veterans Day is trench warfare. So that's building a Marine Corps fighting hole. So it's a trench that's, 2 feet by 6 feet and a chest deep. So you're out in the field digging actually, a trench as like a life skill to have. And then we donate to my buddy on base here is a TAC P, and he volunteers at this thing called Soldiers on Single Track. So it's a mountain biking organization that gets veterans suffering from PTSD back out in the field or in the world of fitness, and specifically in nature through biking, mountain biking. And so we donate to that as well. So every challenge, every holiday is a major way to remember and commemorate the past through something hard physically and through the history of something that makes it relevant. And then there's from the entry tickets that people sign up to partake in the challenge, a donation to a relevant organization as well. So that all started just out of curiosity and how to get myself out of this whole burnout and depression situation in late 2023, because I had just been chasing these different milestones with my fitness that would lead me to feelings of exhalation in the moment. And then there would be that dip of like, okay, what's next? And it's now I just see my year differently laid out. I still sign up for Spartans. I still, do 5K charity challenges and things like that. But I do have a better filter on my fitness now through building this thing, TriumFit, which I want to see grow into more of a national movement of honoring the holidays, not just with, a beer and kicking up, by the beach with our shoes off, but to really think about how we're very lucky to have these days of rest that we have in the U.S.
Definitely. And you have a couple good ones in there. I'm going to go to the fast and feast and
Mhm.
fast.
Yep, exactly.
Do the feast and fast one. Do you bring, say, a local food truck or something in to do the feast portion, or do you have a certain meal?
I'm gonna have to think a little bit deeper about this one. The Feast and the Fast is the only one that's not really historical in that sense. It's mostly just a challenge for challenge sake, So it's something I saw, on the YouTube sphere and of fitness influencers doing a 10,000 calorie eat and a 10,000 calorie burn. And if you could do that in one day, then you would succeed. So you're trying to eat and burn that many calories in a day. So the TriumFit challenge is doing either, if it's a silver division, it's a 5,000 calorie eat and a 24-hour fast. But if it's a gold division, there's just the two tiers that I have in my challenge. If it's gold division, then it'd be a 10,000 calorie eat and a 48-hour fast. And so the broader meaning I give to it is, like I said, the abundance and deficit that we still struggle with in America, of the haves and have-nots and the polarity of that. But there is not a significant historical landmark I can tie the calories to. But if I can do it, that would be a great, every year I could do a different theme of the calorie eat, where I could do, like you said, like I'm going to eat 10,000 calories of only local taco food trucks or something, and this could be a fun one, a really viral one with like friends, right? Obviously, it's like everyone gets together and we all meet up and we eat part of the the feasting challenge together, and then the fasting is not very viral. We're just doing that to suffer. But I'll try to think of like you said, I like the themed idea with a lot of these things, so it keeps it fun, it keeps it entertaining, but ultimately it just reminds me of the abundance that we have. And sometimes it's good to go without. I'm a big fan of that mentality, in terms of, I think I got that from a lot of the Stoic mindset, Epictetus and Seneca and Marcus Aurelius and all these kind of people that have written a lot about Stoicism. And it's a good software to run with your brain, in the sense that I'm a big fan of just every once in a while going without something that you've become accustomed to. So let's say you have coffee every single morning. You just always have coffee at 6 a.m, and that's how you start your day. Well, what if for a week you just challenge yourself? I'm not going to have any coffee this whole week, or 30 days, right? 30-day challenges are kind of a good timeline for a lot of things. And just to see, because it gives you a better appreciation for that thing when you eventually reintroduce it to yourself. So I just find, and especially even with food, obviously, I think a lot of our history, we didn't just have drive-throughs and McDonald's around every single corner 24/7. So I think there's a thing that we've lost in America about fasting culture. It's in every religion, so there's these kind of cultural, memes that have lasted for this long. It's probably important in some, deeper sense. So times to go without food and to really appreciate what we're putting into our body, I think, is also good. So it's kind of a nice thing in the middle of the year to have that feast and fast, and to understand that these things matter, and we have it pretty good in America. So, and if you travel anywhere in the world, you realize that very quickly.
Once you step off a plane somewhere else, you'll understand how
Yeah.
good you have it.
Right.
And you'll stop complaining. Well, you'll still complain, but not as much.
Not as much, hopefully. Yeah, exactly.
Still complaining, but you'll find something to complain.
Right.
You not as much as you used to. And you talked about the TAC-P at the first video of the show there with SOF Missions. Damon Freeman, he's also a TAC-P that started
is he?
the organization. Great dude, and it's a great organization. If your friend wants to look him up,
I will. I'll
maybe go down to Florida and go on a retreat with them.
Okay.
I recommend it.
Definitely will recommend that. Yeah. That's sofmission.org. Is that the organ?
Missions.
Okay. Gotcha. Very
Outstanding organization. And also in April, if you have nothing in your April toolbox,
Mhm.
the Mannion WOD.
Oh.
After Lieutenant Travis Mannion, United States Marine Corps.
Okay.
He was taken from us on April 29th, 2007.
Okay.
They started the Mannion WOD, which is 400-meter run, 29 weighted back squats, repeat 7 rounds.
Okay. This is in March every year?
April
29th.
Between April 20th and 29th. It happened on 29th, so
100%. Like I said, anything that is fitness and philanthropy adjacent in some way, I'm gonna partake in. So this year I heard about Mission 22 and combating veteran suicide, and they had a 22,000 meter row challenge that somebody, senior master sergeant, told me about on base here, and I was like, "Ooh, I'm in!" Instantly. Like, so it's supposed to be 1,000 meters you row. I think the first 22 days of February, but I had heard about it a little bit late, so I was able to do it later in that month. But so I'm trying to, like, build out a calendar of, like, what are all these things that are out there, and veteran suicide is a huge one for sure. So anything that in that world, I think, is really important to think about and to give back in that way.
Definitely. And I think you're doing great with your challenges. I like all of them. The Harriet Tubman one. I like how you do the historical research
Yeah.
behind it, because some people just say, let's do the Harriet Tubman challenge or this
Yeah.
challenge, and not have any backstory or back history, actual history of it.
Yes.
Able to regurgitate the actual history behind both Martin Luther King's struggles,
Yep.
Harriet Tubman's fight, and Murph, what he went through in Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
I just told you about Travis, and all that comes into in Tunnel the Towers, what you do the Tower Challenge as well. All that stuff has a historical notion, and you bring it all out, and that's way better than just putting a shirt on saying I'm doing this.
Yeah, I think that's my friend out here has been telling me. He's like, TriumFit can be a really big thing. You just need to be better at storytelling. And I think that is what connects two people, right? Is being able to tell an effective story about the why of why we're showing up, why are we doing this hard thing together, and what is the bigger significance? How does this connect us to the history of our ancestors who died to get us this day of rest? And so I'm continually trying to learn the art of storytelling, and I want to sign up for a Toastmaster class because I think that's a very powerful thing to, if you can learn proper writing, effective communication, public speaking, sales, everybody kind of needs those skills, no matter if you're an employee or entrepreneur. Right. You're going to need to know how to sell yourself and what you're doing, because if you can't sell yourself and what you're doing and why people should care, no, you're not going to have the attention to make things matter ultimately, right? It's kind of a weird, annoying thing that we have to deal with in the attention economy and social media and all these things, your likes and your follows and all these things, which are kind of anathema to me. I never had social media and Instagram until I started TriumFit in the business. Then I'm like, there's no other way to do it other than that. So I'd never had a personal Instagram until, last year, really. So learning how to tell effective stories to get, people to show up and to care about what your mission is, I think does ultimately make a huge difference, because the more people show up and do it, the better your impact can be. So that's my continual challenge now, is not just these fitness things, but to grow as an entrepreneur, grow in my ability to tell stories, grow in my ability to handle rejection and put myself out there. I mean, there's so many things I'm learning about myself through this process over the last 12 months, really, since TriumFit got going, about my own insecurities and am I the leader that can take this farther, or who can I bring onto the team, and delegation. And I haven't really gotten to that stage. Obviously, I should at some point, obviously, to make this the thing that I want it to be, but it's small going right now, and I just need some people behind me that can help, to get the mission out. But I'm learning. There's a great book I just read called Get Together. There's 3 authors. I'm gonna forget all their names right now, but it's an orange and red cover book called Get Together, and it's all about how to instill the leaders of the next generation with your movements and those kind of things as well, and to create effective groups and communities. So highly recommend that book. Quick read. It's like 120 pages. So anybody out there that works in, a nonprofit or their own business or volunteers or wants to create a lasting group, then I would say Get Together is a great book for that.
Put that in the chat. Get Together. Orange or red cover is all we got. We'll find the authors later and put them in there. But that's a good start.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, I'll find the authors. I feel bad for.
Find it real quick.
Yeah, it's going to be Bailey Richardson, Kai Soto, and Kevin Huynh. So if you just want to put Bailey, Kai, and Kevin, mostly.
Kevin.
Yeah. Great book.
We got a question from the audience for you.
Yeah.
It's from Mel Money P. You've conquered some of the most grueling physical feats out there. What was the moment that made you realize performance alone wasn't fulfilling anymore?
Ooh, that's a great question, Mel. The singular moment, I think it was 2023. I think that's kind of what broke me, and I realized I was going down a bad road that I I would either just become David Goggins or I would just die, you know. And so it was a road I didn't want to go down. Seeing, you know, he's always got a phrase, you know, I'm a engineer of dark matter, you know. He's just, the David Goggins kind of freaks me out. It's a great book, great guy, but you know, I didn't necessarily want that for my life. So I would say that moment, that singular moment where just chasing these numbers, was late 2023, that sub 5-minute mile and 3:15 squat project. That ultimately I hit a 5:05 mile, and I did hit the squat, but it took about everything I had, and I was losing, you know, time with friends and all these kind of things, relationships and all these things. So I was going a little bit too hard into the training aspect of it. So that's when I realized I couldn't just train performance for performance sake, and I wanted to start creating more of a fitness movement, a community, and training with other people. And I've gotten a lot of experience and a lot of joy from joining run clubs. So Tacoma Run Club meets every Sunday at Anthem in Point Ruston. So I'm going out there, I'm running with other people now. I'm not just this, you know, lone wolf mentality. I think that's killing a lot of men, and you know, it's a big mental health thing as well, just because we put so much on our shoulders of I have to do this, or, you know, I'm not, you know, living up to the standard. But I think it's a lot easier if you have a team behind you, and that's what's going to ultimately push you further. So I'm finding in my own evolution of fitness more of a social and community and group mentality with some of my training, which has helped significantly personally. And now when I do have a performance goal, I try to tie it back into some kind of philanthropic aim or giving back aim as well. So there's two kind of parts of TriumFit. There's the charity challenges, there's the Champions League. So the Champions League is a separate division of TriumFit, and it's like fitness accountability coaching. It's like a private mastermind group. There's a Discord channel. There's different levels of coaching. It can be one-on-one calls with me. It can be group Zoom calls, and then a Discord channel. And so people select a 90-day mission or a challenge, and then they select a daily activity they want to do towards that end goal. And 10% of the profits from those membership dues go to givedirectly.org. So it's basically a group of 30 people on a Discord chat that are all trying to strive together and help meet them hit their fitness goals together. And so this is kind of the first cohort that I'm rolling out now, coming in July 1st of 2025. And so my performance goal that I'm going to tie to kind of like a high stakes thing is going to be hitting a 5K in under 19 minutes. Because I have a friend, Gideon, who does some track workouts with me. And he's like, what if we did that together? That'd be kind of a cool thing. So the stakes that I'm putting on it, though, is if I hit my goal of a sub 19-minute 5K, then I'll donate $250 to givedirectly.org. And if I don't hit the goal, I'm gonna have to think more about the negative incentive. But as of right now, it's gonna be I'm gonna buy 100 cigarettes, and I'll have to smoke a cigarette on camera or something kind of wild, and something that I would really not want to do. Or, you know, giving money to big tobacco is kind of anathema to what I stand for with health and fitness. So there's going to be kind of a stakes either way, right? So hopefully it's motivating enough for me to succeed and to then, you know, give money to Give Directly. So I'm trying now to not just have these like arbitrary things, but then like have some kind of like meaning or, you know, bigger reason behind doing it. So I'm trying to think through that one a little bit. I have till July to really hammer it out, but I think it's going to be a running related goal, but with that added twist of like, let's see if we can also, you know, give back in some way. And like I said, 10% of everyone's membership dues in that Champions League goes to Give Directly, which is helping end global poverty. So it's a cool idea, and I'm always trying to think of ways to combine the two now. So great question, though, Mel.
Definitely great answer too. And going back to you want to join Toastmasters, I had a great guest on just a few weeks ago. His name is Dr. Tim Newman. He's a communications coach.
Okay.
Professor. He's an 82nd Airborne. I don't hold that against him. Great dude. Great. I'll connect the two of you. Maybe you talk to him, get yourself on that right path to tell your story and get out there.
Yeah, I would really appreciate that. Yeah, of course, Rich.
And we got another question in from Freeman.
Okay.
At Freeman. What are some signs that someone might be addicted to performance over purpose, and how can they start shifting that mindset? Thanks, Freeman.
Thank you, Freeman, for that question. I would say the biggest signs in my own life was this is really all I can talk to, but I would say it was becoming a detriment to other things that I wanted to do at that point, right? So I think the classic definition of addiction is like a harmful behavior that's affecting other parts of your life or other people in your life, right? So if it's an exercise is a weird quasi thing, right? Because it's a good internal thing to be doing. But if you do it with the wrong mindset or kind of do it to a certain extent, it can harm other relationships in your life. Fortunately, in late 2023, I don't have a wife, I don't have a kid or any of these things. So I'm not neglecting these really significant relationships, but even little things like calling your family back home or going out and enjoying the city you live in and all these types of things. Because if you're in the gym, I was doing like a 2-hour training in the morning and a 2-hour training in the evening, so it was like 4 hours of training for about 12 weeks to hit this goal. And so I was just seeing other things and relationships fall off because I was so singularly focused, which again can be a coin flip of if is that a good thing or a bad thing, right? It's obviously led me to where I am now. But I would say the biggest signs of people going down that exercise addiction or performance being the main thing that they're kind of striving for over a lasting purpose is how much they're isolating themselves, right? So if you're the guy, this is why I don't want to do bodybuilding, right? Because the amount of diet that you have to be restrictive of is incredible, right? You're counting every single calorie, and for a short amount of time, that's fine. But to get down to 6 to 8% body fat, I mean, there's no way it's not supposed to be sustainable. And so you're missing out on a lot of social, utility of just having friends around you and being very less hyper sensitive to all the different kinds of foods and sociability, right? So I would say the biggest thing I noticed in myself was just isolation, because I was either training or I was recovering for the next training session, and so I wasn't able to do anything outside of that. So I would avoid that trap. Like I said, if you can find a run club and you can have a performance goal with a group of people, or a couple of people by your side, I think that's just a cooler way to do it. So I'm training for this 5K performance goal with my buddy Gideon. And so we're going to try and do it together. And I think it's going to make it more of a meaningful thing where you can combine a lot of different spheres, not just the health sphere, but also your social sphere and community sphere and all these other things that matter intrinsically to us humans holistically than just, being a certain body weight or whatever that is. So good question.
Definitely. And I think if you train, like you said, find that club, find that local running.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're in a community. You found your people, and
Yeah.
you kind of build your tribe and move forward. And maybe after you hit that goal, that 5K goal, maybe they have just challenged you to get to the 10K, half marathon level.
Mm-hmm.
You keep challenging each other or pushing each other to greatness, or push each other to success. And
Yeah.
it doesn't stop if you're all positive.
100%.
And I think with what you got going on with TriumFit, with your mindset with that and where you want to go with that,
Mm-hmm.
getting that club will really help you grow TriumFit as well.
You're right. Yes. With that run club, my other friend, gave me a great, piece of advice. He's like, well, you work every day with, the human performance team with the military. So if you could do, add value to that group through maybe like a injury screen or like a prehab, right? So run injury prevention that meets before they meet and go out for their run on Sundays, then that would be a great way for me to add value to the run club and for me to then get the TriumFit name out there about what I'm about and how I'm, not just training to get you back from injury, but training you to have, a peak performance as well as purpose behind what you're doing. So that's kind of my next, way to get out there into the community is to think of ways that I can not just extract and get my name out there, but also provide value. Because I think if you're taking care of the people around you, then they're going to take care of you. We're kind of wired that way, right? So I'm really trying to think of these ways that I can give back to these organizations in a way that everybody's benefiting in some way. And so another big thing in addition to run clubs has been an organization called F3. So you can look that one up as well. Fitness, Faith, and Fellowship. And their big mission is to plant, grow, and serve small workout groups for men for the invigoration of male community leadership. And so this is, again, started by ex-military Army guys out of, I think, North Carolina in 2011. And they saw kind of the writing on the wall in terms of male loneliness, isolation, lack of male strong leadership. And so they started F3, and there's all different kinds of clubs across the nation where they meet up. It's always free. It's open to all men. It's held outdoors, rain or shine. It's led in a pure rotating fashion. And there's one more core tenant. I'm forgetting it on the spot, but there's one more. Yeah. And it's been great because I've been going since January of this year. And I've met a lot of cool guys there. There's a lot of, military culture as well. You're all working out in a group and, counting your reps and cadence. And so it's kind of funny to see that, your office worker also counting in cadence, like they're in basic training in military or something. But I would say, yeah, for other people out there, those have probably been the biggest things that have shifted my mindset since late 2023, 2024 is again, finding groups that you can train with each other, especially if it's a male group and something. The fifth core tenet, it always ends with the COT. So a circle of trust. And so that's where you can say something on your heart, things that are going hard in your life. My wife has cancer, XYZ, like all these kind of things that men are too afraid to share otherwise. And so F3, run clubs, all these types of things can check off so many more boxes than just a performance goal that you can kind of become obsessed with to the detriment of everything else in your life.
Outstanding. I just put f3nation.com in the chat.
Yep, that's it.
You guys can check it out. It actually has a link on there to find one.
There's tons of AOs, so areas of operation, and you'd be amazed how close some of these can be to you. But great groups of guys at every single one, so definitely check out one of those. Again, it's held outdoors, free to all men. Just go check it out and hang out.
Just go out, hang out, and find your tribe. And
yeah,
if it doesn't fit, there's something else out there that you will fit in. Don't quit. Right. Keep moving forward. Ty, we've blazed through an hour here. It's outstanding, and I love doing that because it was just it was a good conversation. And I think the audience got a lot of it. I got a lot out of it. Now you're going to be on the hot seat here.
Sure.
We always ask our guests at the end of the show two things. First thing is, what's the best way for the MisFit Nation to get in contact with you if they just want to chat with you, or if maybe they want you on their show?
Sure. Yeah, 100%. If you want me as a guest or you want to just hang out and chat after the show or email or something like that, the best social platform to find me on is my Instagram. So that would be TriumFit Challenge. So that'd be TriumFit_challenge on Instagram, or you can find me at triumfitchallenge.com. My email is triumfitchallenge@gmail.com. And so that comes just from a play on the word triumphant fitness challenge. So TriumFit Challenge is the way I abbreviate it. But yeah, shoot me a DM on Instagram. That's the most active platform I have. Shoot me an email if you want to get in contact about potentially being on a podcast or otherwise. I do have a Pod Match profile as well that's on my website under the About Me section. So that's how you can directly reach me through that platform if you want me as a guest or anything like that. But always interested in collaborations and getting the word out there about, like you said, weaving people together for a bigger purpose, purpose-driven fitness, and meaning over muscles. So that's what I'm about.
Definitely. I put all those links in the chat as you were saying them. Hopefully I spelled them all correctly.
Sure.
And your Instagram is going across the bottom now for those watching the video. For those who will see this later or listen to this later, it will be in the show notes. The second question we ask as we about to bid adieu is, what's 3 things the MisFit Nation can start doing tomorrow to be better humans?
Ooh, love this. I work for the human performance optimization team. So 3 things. I'll try to, should they all be from a fitness category, or is there categories, or what do you think? Whatever. Okay. I would say the biggest things that I've noticed in my own mental health, habits that I have would be waking up early. I'm not good at it, but I have to. I feel so much more productive. I feel so much worse when I sleep in and hit the snooze button. So that'll be the challenge, everybody listening this week, is do not snooze your alarm for an entire week for 7 days. My goal is always to wake up at 5. I failed today, I'll be honest, but I always feel better. So I'd say 3 things to do better. Wake up early, or don't hit the snooze. Whatever time you wake up, doesn't have to be early. Just stop snoozing, because you never get good sleep after you snooze. Stop snoozing on the snooze button. I would say do one hard thing a day. So how that looks in my life is I do a sprint hit interval challenge. So every day I do a 5-minute interval of 20 seconds on, 2 minutes off, and I repeat that 3 times. It could be any modality: sprinting, air bike, a rower, a skier, whatever you want. Do one hard thing a day where you get your heart rate elevated, stop hitting the snooze button. And the last thing I'll say is turn your phone off at 9 or at least an hour or two before bed. If I do those 3 things, wake up on time, I get one hard thing in, and I turn my phone off, that sleep then allows me to conquer the next day. So win the morning with the early rise, win the day with the workout, and win the night by turning off the Instagram and the notification. I'm telling myself these things, but they work because they work. All right.
Outstanding, Ty. Thank you for hanging out with us tonight, Ty, and the Misfit Nation. Thank you for your questions. There was more questions out there. Couldn't get them all in, but we appreciate you throwing them out there. I think Ty actually answered most of those questions that you sent in, and I appreciate you taking the time, Ty, to come and hang out with us all the way from that left coast over there, hang out with us here in the middle of America. And if you ever get out this way towards Indiana again, let me know. I'm up there training a lot. So
perfect, brother. We'll do it. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate your questions and your patience relaying my long stories. And I talk too much. I apologize.
Hey, you said you can't tell a story. You just told your story a lot there. And I think you're doing well.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
We are our biggest critic, and we'll get you to the right spot so you can look in the mirror and say, I am that guy, and do it and push forward. Misfit Nation, as we always tell you, tomorrow is better day with you than it is without you. If you're feeling that darkness, pick up that phone a friend, dial 988, press option 1, email any one of us at the Misfit Nation. We will get with you. We will take care of you. We will talk to you until we can't talk no more, until someone else can come take our place. Until next time, be humble, stay hungry, and keep hustling.
Thanks for checking us out and being a part of the Misfit Nation show. Don't forget to visit our website at themisfitnation.com. That's themisfitnation.com. Check out all our past episodes and get some of the great Misfit Nation gear for you and your family. As always, be humble, stay hungry, and keep hustling, because we are
Misfit Nation. Misfit Nation.